Hey guys, Neptune here, and today we continue discussing the SL120 meta. In this episode, I will address the frequent suggestion made by players to increase the soul level meta in order to expand the pool of viable builds. No, you can't really do that. In the first segment of this video, I will explain why you can't adjust the soul level meta and what shapes it. In the second segment, I will address the royal fuck up made by FROMSOFT and how it affects the game. Let's start with understanding what shapes the soul level meta. Soul level meta is dictated by several factors: number of main offensive stats, number of main defensive stats, and soft caps. Your main defensive stats are stats that help you to stay alive. In case of Dark Souls 3, those stats are Vigor, stat that increases your HP, and Endurance, stat that increases your stamina pool, allowing you to roll 50 billion times in a row like a madman. Now, your main offensive stats are stats that provide the damage boost for the weapon you're using. It can be strength, dex, intelligence, or fate. All depends on your build. To make PvP somewhat meaningful, you have to have a decent HP pool to be able to survive a mistake or two, so you get a level Vigor. In addition to that, you obviously want to block, roll, utilize your weapon, so you get a level Endurance. Those two stats are always maxed out till you reach the soft cap. By doing so, you add more depth to PvP encounters as you exclude those factors from the equation, meaning that you're not limited in the amount of rolls you can perform and your HP pool is respectable. So what is a soft cap? Soft cap is a point after which your returns on investment start to diminish, meaning that each next level is less effective than the previous one. What are the soft caps for those stats, you may ask? Well, endurance being a stat that is directly tied to the amount of stamina you get to enjoy has always been hard capped at 40, meaning that going past 40 yields nothing. It is a bit different when it comes to vigor since it scales unevenly. However, it reaches the soft cap at 40 stat as well, and going past 40 yields minimal even though noticeable gains. Now, what about offensive stats? Before we get into the second part of the video, let's just inspect strength and dex as an example of offensive stat. You'd want to have dex or strength if you want your weapon to deal any damage in PvP, and both of them are soft capped at 40 stat points, which is very convenient. Now, for the sake of variety, you'd want to have at least 2 offensive stats, so you get to enjoy a wider pool of tools that comes with it, which is very reasonable. So what do we get? We get 4 stats we need to be leveled till the soft cap, which leaves you in the SL120 area. How convenient. No matter what character you pick as a starting class, level in Vigor and Endurance with 2 offensive stats will leave you more or less in the SL120 area. This is how the meta is shaped. Dark Souls 3 had the different soft caps, let's say 50 per stat, then it would have been higher, or if it had endurance and HP pool tied to 1 stat instead of 2, then it would have been lower. But why can't you just increase the meta level? There's nothing really that stops you from leveling over it, right? However, the problem lies in the fact that defensive stats are limited in a more strict fashion when compared to offensive stats. This means that if you get over the SL meta, you won't gain much HP in exchange, and your stamina pool will stay the same. So what is the optimal way to invest stats when you go over the meta? Right, more offensive stats. Going over the soul level meta will allow players to access even more tools, and it will reduce the length of average PvP encounter significantly, because most of the points that are invested past the soul level meta are going to be invested into offensive stats. Imagine the hard-hitting Karthus Curved Sword at 40 dex and 40 strength, and add 40 fate buff on top of it. This will become norm if you hop over the SL120 meta. And since your HP pool is more or less the same, as well as your stamina pool, most PvP encounters will be solved in just a couple of hits, which reduces the lackluster depth of Dark Souls PvP to nothing. People often suggest to move the meta towards SL150 or even higher, especially when discussing build variety, like pyro builds, magic builds, miracle builds in PvP. But you can't really do that, as it will screw the game completely. So what is the solution to build variety problem? How do you make those builds viable without moving the meta? Well, this is a real royal fuck up made by FROMSOFT. For some unknown reason, in Dark Souls 3 you have to wear 50 rings and invest billion stat points into offensive stat that is not strength or dex to have any chance of dealing damage in PvP. Mages or pyromancers are forced to wear 3 rings or even 4 rings and a crappy crown to have any impact in PvP. And please do not forget that you have to invest 60 points into offensive stat like intelligence, which is inarguably the main problem. While dex and strength are soft capped at 40, int or fate don't even start scaling till you invest 40 points, which means that instead of 2 offensive stats, you can have only one at SL 120, be it fate or int. With how the magic has always played a supportive role in Dark Souls series, there is absolutely no damn way you can make those builds work with only one offensive stat. Now there are obviously other factors that make magic builds or pyromancy builds miserable, and I will surely discuss them in the future. But when you approach it from that angle, it is obvious. FROMSOFT just fucked it up, really. There's no real reason to have such a poor, terrible scaling, but it's there, and it ruins your chances of using magic or pyromancy or miracles at the meta soul level. So there you have it. We're basically stuck at SL 120 with minimal build variety, because FROMSOFT decided that Fate Orange should not scale till you hit 40 stat invested, a breakpoint that marks soft cap for most of the other stats in the game. It's just baffling, and you can't do anything about it. Adjusting the meta will lead to terrible builds, killing the variety completely, as everyone will have everything and will likely die in 4 hits because someone is smart enough to buff their Carter-Skirt sword. And since we can't change the way int or fate scale, we're essentially left at the mercy of FROMSOFT. FROMSOFT that don't seem to be that concerned about it. Shame. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.